All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the March 10th Board of Adjustment to order. First, let me announce some brief rules of the meeting, and then we'll do a roll call. First, I'd ask anybody in the audience, if you got an electronic device, turn it on silent or off so that we don't have a disturbance. And if you've got handouts that we would need to see, if you'll send those to the staff so they can disseminate them before we really get started, I'd appreciate it. And also remind the board that turn your mics on when you make a statement or a motion so that we can clearly hear it for the record. And as you come to the podium, there'll be 4 people in support that can speak and then 4 in opposition. Your name and address for the record so that we can have those as well. Normally what we'll do is I'll call the agenda item. The applicant comes to the podium, gives their comments and justification. And as I mentioned, 4 in support, 4 in opposition. Each will have 5 minutes to speak. Then the applicant will have, you'll have a 1-minute kind of a reminder buzz or beep from the staff when it's getting close to your time. And then the applicant will have a 2-minute opportunity for rebuttal. And then after all the comments and questions of the board, then we'll complete that application's public hearing, then we'll go into deliberation. And if you got questions regarding our decision, 251-208-5895, contact the planning department. And let's see here. I have the flexibility of extending time if I think we've interfered with your opportunity to speak or if we have questions. And on occasion, the board may recuse themselves if they have some direct conflict, and we'll defer to Mr. Anderson for guidance on those particular issues. And it takes 5, because we're a supermajority requirement, it takes 5 to affirm a motion either in support or opposition. And we have 7 members here. We have 6 regular members and 1 supernumerary filling in today. And so we have the quorum and we can proceed as scheduled. I think that completes all the basics I need to cover at this time. So with that, I'll start with the roll call. Mr. Metcalf? Here. Mr. Golden? Here. Mr. Milling? Here. Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Atchison?
Here.
And I'm William Guest. And so we have our full 7 members present today with the supernumerary filling in. And with that, we'll proceed with the agenda as presented for the board to consider. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. I have a second. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Agenda is adopted as presented. So with that, application 6591-2477 regarding extension for 3008 Government Boulevard.
Mr. Chairman, the attorney handling this called me today. She's out sick. She asked me to convey to the board that they thought they were getting this vacation request. The approval wasn't contingent on a vacation of Farnell Lane, but their project requires it. So they thought they were going to get it on the agenda in December, had a few hiccups. It's set on the council agenda on March 25th in about 2 weeks. So that's the reason for this request.
Okay. Do we have anyone in the audience that was here for this particular application, either in support or opposition? You can't hear me? I'm surprised. Okay, I'll move it a little closer. Did we have anyone that was here for this first application for an extension, either in support or opposition? All right. Thank you, by the way, for pointing that out. Do we have any public comments on this?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. And based on the information Mr. Anderson's presented, Chair entertain a motion? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we extend it subject to findings of fact.
Okay.
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, extension's granted. All right, application 6652 regarding 1408 Cody Road North, please. Afternoon, name and address.
Thank you, appreciate that. Jay Broughton with Broughton Associates, 314 Magnolia Avenue, Fairhope. I'm the engineer on behalf of the client, so appreciate y'all's time. Glad to see everybody, but what we're here to do is proposing a 230 lot fee simple subdivision with a minimum lot size of 25 by 30 to accommodate a 700 square foot house. All right. So obviously the reason we're here, we're going to need some help with some variances in order to do this. The variances that we're requesting are minimum lot size, lot width, setback, site coverage ratio, and common area per dwelling unit. All right. So the one difference between the staff report and the request being made has to do with site coverage ratio. In order to accommodate the house driveway, we would like to request that be 80% per lot instead of 60%. As indicated in the staff report. But what we're really doing with this project is building an opportunity for people to buy, home ownership, right, in a house they can be proud of, in a community that's family friendly. It has amenities, it's going to have a grand interest that promotes a sense of security and safety in an established neighborhood. It's going to have a clubhouse, it's going to have a pool, green space, common areas, walking trails. Everything that you would be looking for in a community, right? And it's an exciting project. It's innovative, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all may have about it.
Okay, any questions of the board for the applicant?
Where's the clubhouse and the pool? It's not on this site plan.
Yes, sir. So bottom left. Right. Yes, sir.
Okay, see, that just shows a parking.
Right. Draw that all in.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
not that it matters, I'm just curious, is this a totally private development, or is there any, is it totally private development, or is there any government assistance in this for like affordable housing?
I'm not too sure about that. I think it's private development, but I can't answer that.
Doesn't matter, I'm just curious.
Yeah, thank you.
What's a typical lot dimension for these lots?
It'd be 25 by 50.
What's the parking accommodation? You said
So each lot will have its own driveway, and it'll be double stacked, so 2 cars will be able to park in front of each unit.
Okay. Any other questions of the board for the applicant? All right. Do we have anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition today? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you'll come to the podium. And your name and address, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Blakely. I have a lot on Cody Road. I just have a basic question. I've never been to any of these meetings before, so I'm not sure how it actually go. But I know one question I have, is this supposed to be an apartment complex, or is this housing?
Okay, my understanding is housing, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct.
Single-family housing.
Single-family housing.
Okay. My lot is directly across the street from this location. So would that affect my property as far as it's empty right now, it's a vacant lot? So I'm not sure if I'm gonna put a trailer on it or I'm gonna rebuild. My house is burned down at the lot. So I guess my question is it gonna affect me doing whatever I need to do on my lot, which is directly across the street from it?
Well, let's identify where you live. Which
I live at 1255 Cody,
Cody? Okay, and
Cody Road North.
so you're across Cody from it.
Right.
Okay.
It's on one section. I'm across the street, just a few feet up from it, directly across the street from it.
Okay. I don't know. I had to defer to staff how that might impact her property, but I don't see that it's a direct, because you're not on the same side of the street, for one thing.
No, I'm not on the same side, but I didn't know if it was gonna actually prevent me if my kid want to put a trailer on my lot versus building a house. So, you know,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to answer that question, trailers are not allowed within the city limits. I don't,
what's the
A
tra-
mobile-
it's-
Hold
mobile
on,
home-
let's get an answer, please.
A mobile home as a residence would require a conditional use permit for that location, but this approval that is before the board for consideration today would have no impact on your property, whether the conditional use permit is approved or not, if that's something that you wanted to do.
We would
Yes.
look at your property separately, or the staff would.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's all.
Okay. Oh, let me ask you a question. You never did say, are you in support or opposition?
I'm in support.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. All right, anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? All right. Follow-up questions from you in case the board has any. So the only thing when I looked at this initially is it looked like it's a very busy site. It's probably the nicest way to put it.
That's pretty accurate.
And whether or not, because the green space, some of it is the stormwater.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I don't know how that, I mean, how you call it green space. I guess it's green space for, it's grass.
Well,
but it's
it'd be
not-
green space in the sense that it will be usable with access on all sides to it, right? So it'll be more of a feature than it would be.
Okay,
like
so
a-
it's not a detention, retention pond that.
It will be, now, it will be a stormwater facility.
Yeah, I understand
It
that.
will be a
But it'll
facility.
be aesthetically,
Right, it's going to be done in such a way that it'll be usable by the residents, like
Okay.
a walking path around it and things like that.
okay, that's what I'm getting.
Yes,
at.
sir, yes.
Okay. All right,
I have a couple questions.
yes.
So these will be for sale?
Yes, sir, that
You
is
know what
correct.
kind of price range they'll be?
Again, I'm not too sure on that. I can probably find out.
Has
but-
the developer done these before? Do you
Yes,
know?
yes, the developer has done these before.
Has experience?
Yes,
with that?
very experienced. Mississippi and one actually last year, very similar to this, but it wasn't fee simple on the same site. So they're well versed in it.
Any idea what type of exterior materials and stuff that they're considering? Is
I
it
think it's going to be hardy.
Hardy.
I could be, yeah. Sorry, the developer's here. I can let.
Good afternoon.
Good
Your
afternoon. Hey, Amanda Crouse, Elliott Land Developments. To answer a couple of questions.
Address.
Oh, 1402 Pass Road, Gulfport, Mississippi, 39501.
Okay, please.
Yes. And to answer a couple of questions, yes, they will be for sale. The exterior will be a hardy plank. They're all 2-story, 2 to 3 bedrooms. Price range, we have a similar development in Biloxi, a couple of them actually, and their price range goes between $200,000 to $225,000. We had a similar development last year presented here that was approved, but it was a multifamily, and we were not able to sell them to the individual homeowners. So we have, higher demand for home ownership compared to rentals. So we wanted to provide a sense of home ownership. Is a lot of times we have the first-time home buyer that wants to live in these units. Price range for them is better than renting, and they have a sense of ownership. And again, they will have a pool and a clubhouse at their use. It will have an HOA, and everything will be maintained by the HOA.
Okay, any further questions? Mr. Millen?
Okay.
Okay. Traffic, have your office had the opportunity to look at this from access for first responders and such?
No, I've looked at it from a first responder point of view. It is a lot of driveways. That's my big. Are there going to be limited to how many vehicles each house can bring in by the HOA or anything?
I'm sorry. So
Are they going to limit how many vehicles can be there per house? Somebody's not going to have like 4 or 5 vehicles in front of their house or anything like
I
that.
mean, the intent is to have two vehicles per home. Yeah. In terms of it being written into a covenant of max number of vehicles, I'm not too sure about that. Yeah. So no on-street parking.
No on street parking. Okay.
Okay.
Where are they going to put their boat?
Probably in the pond.
All right. Probably at one of the storage facilities nearby. Okay, any further questions for the applicant? All right, once again, before I conclude, do we have any public comments regarding this application? Staff, do we have any public comments regarding this?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would say that concludes our public hearing regarding the application. And for clarification, the applicant stated 80% site coverage, my understanding? 2 cars per drive, and I would suggest if the board should consider approving this, that we make it a condition, no on-street parking. So, seeing how that's an enforcement issue. All right, with that, Chair, entertain a motion?
Real quick, Mr. Chair, I just have a couple questions for the staff, if that's all right.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, the minimum standards are put in place for a purpose, and so I guess what I'm trying to think through with this type of development, I mean, things that would be a concern with something this dense would be traffic. I mean, the amount of traffic and the detention that you've got on the site and that it's being managed. I mean, are those the 2 main things? I'm just trying to think something that this dense, what it would do, potentially harm anybody around it or something like that. I mean, I'm not opposed to high density at all. It's probably the most dense I've seen, in my time here, which is my second question. Have we had anything this dense built in our area?
Sure. So the as far as the traffic goes, traffic engineering is requiring a traffic impact statement to be study to be done. So they will address that. Engineering, as usual, will be responsible for making sure that the stormwater detention is built and developed according to regulations. As far as the density goes, I know there is another site that's off of Old Government Street behind the Home Depot there that has a similar development. I'm not sure how the density compares off of my head, but before our current regulations, a development like this would have gone through the planned unit development process through the Planning Commission. But since that is no longer an option, this is how these types of developments have to be considered.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was looking at the access. Looks like there's one primary off Cody Road, but there's a Victor Road right-of-way, and I'm assuming that's an unopened road. Is that correct?
Victor Road is an open right-of-way. It's an
Is it
open
maintained?
public.
Is
Yes,
it
sir.
maintained?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there will be 2 good usable access points?
That is what's proposed.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
One more quick question. I noticed when it was rezoned to R3 in 2008, it looks like a condition was put on the property abutting R1 property. They needed to install an 8-foot or 6-foot privacy fence. Will that carry with this proposed development?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Okay, once again, that'll conclude our public hearing regarding the application. Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval based on standards of review and with the addition of no on-street parking.
Okay, a motion to approve with a condition of no on-street parking, findings of fact. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries with condition. All right. Application 6653 regarding 250 St. Louis Street. If the applicant will come to the podium, please. Yes. Okay. Okay, we have a recusal on this application. We have Mr. Milling that's going to step aside. And with that, we still have 6 members to vote, and we'll proceed.
So thank you all. My name is Thomas Luce, address 208 Greeno Road, Fairhope. I am here to speak in support. However, I am the civil engineer assigned on this project with Jade Consulting. And what we have here is a proposed bank building on what is currently a vacant lot that is being used as a pay-to-park facility. And the reason we are here is to here for a drive-through component to this bank building. And our understanding is bank and financial institutions are allowed by right in T 5.1, but to have a drive-through component requires a special exception, which is why we are here. And I'm here to answer any questions y'all may have from an engineering scope, and the rest of my team up there can be here from an operational question standpoint.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant's rep?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
maybe it's a question for staff. I didn't see it in the materials, but is there a rendering of the building itself? All I saw was a simple site plan.
There is not.
That would have been a good idea.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Do you have a rendering with you by chance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else with the project have a rendering? Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
As noted in the staff report, the applicant is coming through this process to see if a drive-through will be approved first before they go through the remainder of the design process. They have not presented any design to the Consolidated Review Committee, which is required for developments downtown. So if they get an approval today, they will then proceed with the rest of the design development, which may require them coming back to the Board of Adjustment for other issues. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, understand. All right. Do you have something to share with us?
Well, while he's coming down, I've got a quick question for staff.
Yes.
You may have to speculate, but the Downtown Development District Code requires special approval because of what reason? Because of function, or because this is more of a suburban use, or is it an aesthetic issue that we're taking into account here?
Well, the Downtown Development District Code is developed to enhance the walkability of downtown Mobile. That was the whole purpose when it was passed in 2014. Therefore, the intention was to not allow drive-through businesses to be allowed by right throughout downtown to just continue a suburban experience of Mobile. So that's why a special exception is required in this case.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? All right. Sir, your name and address?
Thank you. Doug Thomas. I'm with Riverbank and Trust. Our local address, 118 North Royal, Suite 100. First off, I want to thank y'all for hearing this. I do appreciate it. I've sat on a board similar to y'all, and I know the weight it bears, so I do appreciate it. Also appreciate, I've met with a group of the opposition last week, and I appreciate that opportunity for me to just sit down and talk with them. We unfortunately didn't come to resolution, but I did appreciate the opportunity for them to hear me out. I wanted to just kind of talk about what everybody knows what a bank does, but just on the numbers, we're a small community bank in comparison to what a lot of people think of a regional or national institution is. And so I shared with the opposition last week some of our numbers, meaning we've got a current location downtown, which is in a rental space. We'd like to relocate that because we like to have the commitment of owning property. In January of 25, our numbers downtown were 384 transactions, 125 of which were internal transactions, meaning nobody was present. So that leaves 259, some of which were multiple. When you do the math, it's about 3.6% of our transactions in this region are by our drive-throughs and other areas. And so you're talking about minimal. I mean, right now, just a few cars a day. So just kind of want to bring that point out that this is not I keep hearing the Chick-fil-A comparison, and I understand that. I've had similar projects where I was on the opposition side because of developments that I had. That will not be our model. It never has been. We're 19 years old, and so we kind of know what our traffic, I wish we had that problem in a lot of ways, but we don't and won't. In saying that, as Thomas alluded, it's our understanding that by right, we can do a bank building with the city preferring the curb cut or pushing the curb cut to Joachim. And it's our opinion that if we don't have the drive, it's going to drive all traffic around probably State through the neighborhood to Joachim, and it's going to get in and out on Joachim. So in my opinion, if we were able to do a drive and then later ask for the curb cut on St. Louis, at least you would have exiting traffic going each way on St. Louis, which would alleviate Joe Ackerman a little bit. We are certainly not, like I said, a high volume deal. We're trying to actually increase walkability. Figure about 30% of our current base walks to the bank. We've kind of studied it. We feel like there's about 41 spots that are closer on street parking to get to our operation there that would not be in our parking lot or through the drive-through. And then as we go through and we actually look at what we propose, in neighboring districts currently, I believe you have 5 drive-throughs for financial institutions, 4 of them which are operational, all of them which are substantially larger than what our operation is and likely will ever be. And I don't see a backup or congestion issue that those have caused. We didn't just come in. We've been looking for a site down here since 2021. We've had multiple LOIs. We've had several deals fall apart. Our top priority really is commitment to the community. We're a good neighbor. I promise. I know I'm standing up here and speaking for it, but Alabama-based community bank, we sponsor things. We want to be a good neighbor. And so, by right, this site could be other things that were way higher density, way higher congestion. We're going to be open normal business hours, meaning nights and weekends. It's not going to affect walkability at all for a lot of the neighborhood that have any concerns. Really, in our opinion, it's one of the most compatible things that, we put a $2-3 million investment downtown that is open only during business hours. We're going to have minimal, if any, impact on anything surrounding. So once again, I just appreciate the consideration. I do appreciate the opposition meeting with me and letting me at least speak my mind, and I'll answer any questions. So
How are you going to control the parking lot from non-bank use? Or was you just going to leave it open and it's free parking now?
Well, right now we've been monitoring it for a while. I haven't seen, with the exception of the Mardi Gras campers, anything over there much since COVID, honestly. We've been looking around downtown for a number of years. We do put up signs that say, bank parking. If it's not a nuisance and it's not during business hours, we try to enforce during business hours because the thought would be have some parking on site for our staff as well as customers. But, ultimately,
I'm thinking more of the weekends. If you're not operational weekends, it'll be potentially utilized.
It's probably going to have a sign up, but there's, I don't know, short of sitting down there monitoring it. I'm not going to be there on the weekend monitoring myself. It's So, as long as nobody's doing harm to the building or.
And along the lines of the rendering, I drive by one that's on University nearly every day.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar?
No, I will say very similar in what our investment would be. We have one on 98 in Daphne, and we have one on University that we've constructed in the last 3 years. I think if you've seen it, you would say it's an impressive office. We've not had anybody walk in any of those offices where they weren't wowed. We spent a lot of money on the exterior and interior furnishings, but downtown it would be, the reason we don't have a rendering is
I understand the purpose.
We need this. We've already spent quite a bit of money on due diligence in the last 4 years, and so we're trying to make sure that we can, our understanding is any site we have downtown that we go to, we're going to have to come here for a drive. So we didn't want to start putting another $10,000 or $12,000 out after money we've already spent. We do have some things in mind, and based on budget, I'll say it would look like probably some type of two-story bank building. We've told the city at the pre-planning meeting, like, that's not an issue as far as we won't have the same color and stone and all that on University because we don't feel like it fits the downtown model. And so our desire would be to build something that's probably more in the color line with Greer's and some of the other buildings downtown. Some type of brick and stone facade. We always have, if you've seen it, a little bit of a tower. We thought about bringing it up to the front corner and kind of building in a little bit of an urban design that kind of just fits the streetscape of downtown Mobile. So,
okay. Any questions of the board?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
There's 2 areas for pull through on the drive through. Is that a 2-lane drive through or is that one exit for the back parking lot?
We only need one. We did this rendering just really as a CAD rendering just to see for due diligence what would fit on that lot. In theory, it looks like there would be 2. I don't think we would ever have a need for 2. And so I've talked it over with the engineer. would really like a lane up close to the building so that you're actually, like a normal drive where you're actually with a deal drawer. We call it the large metal drawer that comes out. And then the other one, just a slip lane where someone could get around to exit if there was a car in the parking lot.
Because Joachim is one way going south, correct? Right?
That's correct.
So if you don't have this curb cut on St. Louis, then every car is going around through the neighborhood to come back to Joachim.
That's right. That's what my point was, is we don't do the drive and we just move forward with our building. It changes probably, what we do. And then every car that comes to our facility is going around the neighborhood in and out Joachim. And so in my opinion, St. Louis actually alleviates a little bit of that Joachim issue, which is more the neighborhood.
Is there a curb cut currently in that location?
Right now it's 3 parcels is my understanding, and there's 3 curb cuts on the property. Joachim and maybe 2 on St. Louis. It's 3 currently and asking to take it to 2.
And I assume since you didn't spend money on a rendering, if you don't get approved the drive-through, it kills the deal?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It changes the deal, and that goes back to our board, and we go back and look at our investment and see what we feel like. Our model has been such that we really need a drive-through. That's what I was explaining when we met and had the neighborhood meeting is I get Chick-fil-A can stand here and say the same thing I'm saying. I just know my business, and I don't expect everybody here to know it. It's not for everybody to know, but it is a community bank, and we're thinking when we do a drive, it's really for mobility issues, for a mother that's got a couple of kids in the car. It's the inclusion of getting all of our customer base. So if you have had a surgery or for whatever reason you're unable to enjoy the walkability that some of us do, you're still able to run through there quickly and make a transaction. It's not you're pulling up to a window, ordering, and then waiting on something to be done. It's a single transaction deal that moves quickly.
Will you have an exterior ATM?
We would like to, yes.
Okay.
And I would also like to point out to the board that while the rendering does show a curb cut to St. Louis Street, that they are not allowed one by right. That is a variance that we do know that they will have to get with the potential others once we get the rendering of the structure.
Okay, so
right.
that wasn't applied for at this time.
Correct, because that is a variance request, so we only have the special exception for the drive-through aspect of the development for consideration today.
That's correct. Obviously, it is our intent to go ask for that variance if granted today, because we would need it for it to make sense.
Did the board consider that today not at all, since it wasn't requested?
You're talking about the curb cut access?
Yes.
No, sir, because it was not advertised.
Okay.
It was our understanding we couldn't, I think. I thought we asked, but I thought we were instructed to do 2.
Others that are here in support, do you have anything to add you'd like to speak at this time? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have individuals in opposition. Pick your best 4, I always say. Your name and address, sir. You're number 1, I guess.
My name is Pete Burns. I live at 255 North Jackson Street. I've lived there since 2013. I've been a downtown property owner since 1980. My wife and I bought a law firm building at the corner of Conti and St. Emmanuel. I have seen the transformation of downtown Mobile for 40 years. I've watched it. When we moved into that building, females were uncomfortable going to work, going to lunch, going to the courthouse unaccompanied. Mayor Mike Dow had a vision, the String of Pearls. You guys, some of you probably remember that. And with that vision, he began to implement a plan for downtown Mobile. And that has been carried forward with the subsequent mayors, including Mayor Stimson. Mayor Stimson's focus has also been on infrastructure and residential development. And the key to that has been walkability. I was on the Downtown Mobile Alliance board. Elizabeth Stevens gave the board members a book, The Walkable City, written by a urban architect, Mr. Jeff Specht. Well, what that book said that resonated with me was that living in a walkable urban environment is like living on a college campus. You're on foot, you bump into people, you see your neighbors, and then fun things happen. I've lived a lot of places. I've never lived in an environment as friendly and welcoming and close as Detente. The secret sauce is the walkability. And we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars developing a plan to protect the walkability of these neighborhoods. These plans did not come cheap, and they weren't done by folks just the shade tree mechanic type of people. These were national experts, and they have said that the drive-through is not in keeping with the pedestrian-friendly environment that we're looking for, that we're trying to build. And I want to put you guys in our position. Suppose you had millions of dollars that you invested in a development, going to be a mixed-use development. You did your due diligence. You looked at the zoning. You looked at the plans for the property. And like we did, you said, okay, I can see this working for us. We're going to do it. You invest. We've invested. And then, after your building is complete, your money is in, now you're trying to lease it up, and somebody comes in and wants a special exception. We want to do so. We want to change things. It's not what you want. It's not in keeping with what the experts say is in the best interest of the community, but it is what we want to do. We can make more money if we do that. You would feel betrayed, as we will feel betrayed, because, and they're going to want to say that this is not a big deal. Two things. One, this special exception will run with the land. If that bank sells that building, the other people can come in. They've got the drive-through. And number two, zoning is not just a suggestion. Zoning is an agreement between the people and the community. We are welcoming the bank to come in, but we want them, if they're going to come in, to play by the rules. I think my time's up. Thank you.
Any questions of the board? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Boswell. I live at 1609 Government Street. I am the senior advocate for the Government Street Collaborative, representing 6 Midtown and downtown historic districts and several neighborhoods throughout the downtown and midtown area. We are requesting that this board deny the special exception that will allow a drive-through service at 250 St. Louis Street proposed by Riverbank. Please be aware, our opposition is not with the bank. It is only with the drive-through. On a personal note, as a former banker, I know the service that banks can give to communities. And I very much hope and wish that Riverbank still considers, even if they do not win today, to place a bank in that corridor. However, I am also aware that a drive-through service in an urban setting today is archaic and an impediment to pedestrian-friendly neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods transcending transitioning from a solely commercial area to a mixed-use residential commercial neighborhood, as St. Louis is currently doing. The city of Mobile has, for the last 5 years or more, been designing a redevelopment plan for St. Louis with the goal of creating a streetscape that is pedestrian and resident friendly. The Government Street Collaborative, along with Detente Square and other neighborhood groups along St. Louis, have been very excited about this project. The city's effort and vision to create a streetscape aligned with the concept of complete street is what we are desiring. Complete streets is an approach to planning, designing, and building streets that enables safe access for all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, transit riders of all ages and abilities. Incomplete streets, like the current St. Louis Street and so many others streets in our historic city, are the result of a process that fails to consider the needs of all people and outdated measures of what makes a street successful. Outdated measures, such as drive-through services, create an end product that is a street that spans a spectrum from uncomfortable to downright deadly for those not using a car. The city's goal here is not only to encourage new business downtown, but to encourage residents to live and work downtown in a safe and enjoyable environment for themselves and their families. Pedestrian and biker safety is a paramount concern and was a large consideration by the City Council and the administration to spend over $16 million on the St. Louis project. In your consideration, I hope you will bear in mind what is at stake here and not begin the unwinding of this effort before it is even begun to make St. Louis a template for other downtown streets, preventing the rebirth and the renaissance we all desire. A denial of this special exception will be a message of encouragement, not only to those who desire to live downtown, but to developers who understand the complete street concept. We already are seeing that encouragement occur with the recent announcement of a 5-story mixed-use residential commercial building at 300 St. Louis Street. And in fact, to our great joy, this board just approved a variance to allow that mixed-use building to go forward. To approve the special exception, allowing a drive-through just up the block from this new residential building, will send a mixed message and the wrong message. It will also open the door to other drive-throughs. Along with the others who have spoken and will speak and have written their objection to this application, I implore you to deny this special exception. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a quick question, Mr. Boswell.
Sure.
Sorry. If this drive-through were to be denied today, and the bank did decide to continue and came back for their variance and still wanted a curb cut on St. Louis, how would the neighborhood react to that variance request?
Well, we'd have to see exactly what the curb cuts would entail. Our discussion with the bank this past week, that particular question came up, and we are very concerned because Joachim is a one-way going south, and as you remarked, someone coming on St. Louis is going to have to go around if the drive-through is in the back, going into the back portion of the parking lot.
Right.
And that would bring that traffic all the way into Detente on one of their main streets. And it's also going to cause backups out of that drive-through going in and out, and making it, again, a safety issue for walkability and bikers, and also for motorists in that area. The traffic that is already existing on Joachim at certain times during the day is very heavy. Now, we want the bank to be there. Again, it is not, we're not against the bank. And I, as a former banker, as I say, there are ways that banks can make money without having a drive-through at that particular site. And you can service customers that have certain needs.
I guess my question is, if by right they can build a bank, not ask for a curb cut on St. Louis, and just have a curb cut on Joachim, and I could argue that that might challenge walkability even more than what's proposed.
It could be. I mean, that's just what we've got to see. We don't know exactly yet because we don't have the design, and I would just have to delay, a real comment and position on that until we actually see their design and their elevations that they submit at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Golden, did you have something? Okay, thank you. All right, next, please.
That's a quick question for staff while they're walking up. There are some streets slated to change from one-way to two-way upcoming. Do we know if Joachim is on that list?
I don't know at this time. I would have to look into it.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Your name and address?
Hey, Kelly Baker, 254 State Street in Detonte. First of all, I would like to thank Taylor for asking the question to explain the special exception. And I would like to see if Mr. Hoffman could restate that for us.
Drive-through businesses in the Downtown Development Code, which was adopted in 2014, originally were required, I believe, to have planning approval. When we switched from the old zoning ordinance to the new Unified Development Code, that became special exception. And the reason why drive-through businesses are singled out for this is that it was found by the design professionals who developed the downtown plan to be not necessarily in keeping with the intent of making downtown more walkable over time. So they wanted to pull those out so that they would be looked at individually whenever they would come up.
Right. Okay, thank you. So let's keep our eye on the ball here. We're talking about a drive-through, not the bank. And because of the city's plan, we can walk to a grocery store, a dentist, an eye doctor, a drugstore, an emergency care facility, and soon an Ace Hardware. And none of these have drive-throughs. A 5-story multi-use development with apartments is also coming soon in the next block west of this proposed drive-through. The number of people walking in this area is fantastic. It's what makes this area so desirable. A drive-through is dangerous and will cause major traffic issues. Furthermore, it's not conducive to a walkable street. Joachim Street is a one-lane, one-way street and the main exit of our neighborhood. Pedestrians, cyclists, and dog walkers, etc., all use Joachim Street and will have to navigate around this drive-through to get to Greer's and the new Ace Hardware, which is where we will cross the intersection there to get to the hardware store, and we will be walking. A group of concerned residents met with Mr. Thomas from Riverbank and Trust and expressed our opposition to this drive-through. We offered him suggestions for alternative locations like the vacant CVS at Broad and Government, or the vacant bank 2 doors down from that, or the vacant Wendy's across the street. All of these abandoned buildings have drive-throughs. More recently, a bank with a drive-through was just torn down in Crichton for a Big Tuna car wash. All one has to do is drive down Government Street to see the negative impact drive-throughs can have on a street. The decision you make today is pivotal and critical, and it will affect the future redevelopment of our iconic St. Louis street. Please make the decision today to deny the special exception for a drive-through. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. think we have time for one more. Good afternoon. Name and address.
My name is Gail Lee, and my husband and I live at 217 North Jackson Street in Detente Square, and I am the president of the Detente Square Neighborhood Association. As the president and representative of the Detente Square Neighborhood Association, we oppose this drive-through. As my husband and I, as residents of Detente Square and on Jackson Street, which would be impacted by the neighborhood if driving through to get to Joachim, if this was approved, we oppose this special exemption. My husband and I moved here from Nashville. It took us a while after being here and forgetting what it was like in Nashville, how busy the streets were, to find a neighborhood that we chose to live in and build a home in that gave us the walkability of a downtown area and a neighborhood as we age. I do want to state that we are not in opposition of the bank. It is solely in opposition of the drive-through. The drive-through, we believe the drive-through is a contraindication to the long-established pedestrian-friendly city plan for St. Louis Street, of which portions are already complete. A quick Google search will show you that there are 19 banks downtown in a 4 or 5 block area, most of which do not have drive-throughs. This bank drive-through would set a precedent for not only the other banks, but any other businesses building or relocating to Jackson Street. For these and previously statements from our neighbors and other historic neighborhoods, again, we are in opposition of this drive-through. I'd like to thank the board. I'd like to thank our neighbors from not only Detente Square, but other historic districts for standing by us with this opposition. And I would respectfully request that you deny the special exception. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the board? All right, thank you. We had public comments that were sent in as well.
Yes, sir. You do have several comments in support and opposition that were emailed out Friday and are on your iPads.
Okay. All right. Applicant's rep, you have an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Yes, thank you. Quickly, I'll be brief. All in all, in the summary of this, we feel like our request brings far more good than bad, if any bad, to this area. Certainly understand and respect the opposition's opinion. This committee exists for variance requests because there are special exceptions to everything. In terms of precedent, like I said, there's already 5 facilities with drive-throughs, 4 operationally, that are in financial service industry in the neighboring district. My understanding have either been here for years or all would have required an exception of the same nature. So in terms of precedent, I think that there are banks that have already set the precedent for having a drive-through. I think this board is completely competent to determine going forward if a Chick-fil-A or high volume comes in, that would not be a good neighborly option for this. And then in terms of, like I said, this was not a haphazard, we just threw a dart and picked this location. This was 4 years of looking. And so the precedent would be anything that they mentioned that, are other opportunities, all of them require tear down, and a tear down would require me to be right back up here asking for a special variance again because they're not suitable for what we need for our operation. So once again, thank you for consideration, and I'll just end. I think that Riverbank and Trust would be a good neighbor downtown, good sponsor, and I think the precedent said it there that we're not asking for something that doesn't already exist. So thank you.
Hold on.
Oh, you got a question from the board.
Obviously, you put a lot of thought into this whole thing. How big would the building be?
So to be determined,
give or take. I mean, you got a footprint there. So what's the?
We've got a footprint that shows, and I asked them to maximize the footprint so that I could do for due diligence. Footprint shows 4,500 square feet, first floor, and could be mirrored to second. I don't think that we would build a 9,000 square foot building. Our headquarters for the region, which is in Daphne right now, is about 7,000 square feet. So I don't see us needing downtown. I would think it would probably be somewhere. The other two offices, the one we built on University and then one we are currently working on in Saraland, are around the 5,000, 5,200 square feet. And I would think that would probably be more in line with what we would try to do. There is some staffing that exists downtown today, some support staffing. If we determine that that's not feasible for them to be down here and we move them to, it could even be a smaller footprint. So that would be my, just off the cuff. All in all, I agree that I think that it's a good project. And I mean, some of the variances here previously for some of the projects that the opposition mentions, I'm in favor of. I think it's fantastic for the street, but I also think it causes more congestion, more noise, more trash, more congestion of that area than anything we're asking to do. So not that I'm opposed to it. That's one of the reasons we want to be there as well, is to benefit from what St. Louis can be. So
My point is that you put a lot of time in analyzing your business.
Yes.
You got 10 parking spaces. So obviously you didn't do that without thought. So what y'all think is that you're going to have your employees and the amount of drive-in, walk-up traffic.
Roughly.
And you planned accordingly for that.
Roughly, yes.
Okay.
We see very little need for more.
Okay. And then now it's a parking lot with Lord knows how many spaces. 30, whatever. I'm not sure.
I don't know the number.
So it's just my point to the neighbors is that only 10 parking spaces there, that probably half of them would not even be used twice, it'd be used twice a day.
Right.
Just sitting there during the day and then coming in and out twice a day. So that was just an observation. Thank you.
It is. And one of those, at least one of those would be handicap ADA. So you would have one that was only used in that instance. So.
Okay, we've concluded with comments. I'm sorry. All right. Any other questions of the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Well, we allowed 4 in support and 4 in opposition. Are you in support or opposition? Support. I've already concluded the public hearing. Yes. Okay, but the order in time. You're in support? Okay, I'll give you the opportunity as well. Your name and address.
Scott Burberick.
Pull up the mic a little bit so everybody can hear you. There you go.
Scott Burberick, P.O. Box 1125, Saraland, Alabama 36571.
Okay. And you're in support? You want to tell us why?
Yes, I'm the owner of the property. And I have some disagreement with some of the things that were stated by the opposition. Partly as far as any traffic that would be going in. If you were coming down St. Louis, you'd go over 1 block to St. Anthony and turn down Joachim, to get to the drive up. Second of all, another thing that as far as the drive up being full and backing up Joachim Street, you would, based on that drawing, you would probably have to have at least 5 already in line before that ever happened. Another thing is I don't know if this would kill the deal that we have, but if it does, then, I guess the way I'm seeing it, a bank is a very simple type business. If they back out, what if a bar comes to us and wants to buy it? So instead of a bar is going in there. To me, I don't like that, but if we end up selling it, then, that, to me, a bank is a much better alternative. The idea that if it was a Regions Bank, I would agree with them because of the amount of traffic. But this is a much smaller bank, and I don't think that the drive up is something that would cause any more harm than any car coming down Joachim, looking both ways and pulling out. So I just don't see where there's a danger to it. And I see the alternative of if this doesn't go through and other prospects and other businesses that might not be nearly as friendly as for the location close to residential properties. And a bank, a small bank like this seems like it would be a good fit for the area. So that's what I wanted to say.
Any questions of the board? All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Oh, also, just to let you know, the properties were my grandfather's, okay? Inherited them. So I've been around this for the past 40 years too. So I know exactly about downtown Mobile, the development that's been going on. You know, because I've been, even as a kid, down here working Mardi Gras all the time. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Sir, when we conclude, we have to kind of keep our rules. No, I'm sorry. It's point of order. It's only for the opposition to give a rebuttal. Yeah. Sir, I get to determine the order, and I allowed the applicant a number of speakers, and then your group 4 in opposition. This individual is one of the 4 on the applicant side. So unless legal has any other guidance. All right. Any questions, comments of the board before we call for a motion?
I have a question for staff. It was referenced that if the bank built a drive-through and then vacated the building, the potential next tenant or owner would be able to use the drive-through by right. Is that correct?
Yes, so as long as there are no substantial alterations made to the structure, then they could. However, special exceptions and variances are site plan specific, so somebody could not demolish this building, build a new building, and put a drive-through without coming back to the board.
And a change of use would not trigger not being able to use the drive-through either?
If somebody wanted to put a drive-through business here after the site receives a special exception, then that would be allowed, yes.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff.
Yes.
You said that the special exception is site plan specific, but I think they've stated their site plan isn't finalized. And I'm having trouble getting around because I don't know what kind of building we're looking at. I don't know exactly what kind of site plan or driveway variance we're looking at. And I feel like we're having while I understand the process of trying to see if they can clear this hurdle before proceeding, I don't feel like we have the full story.
And I wouldn't disagree with that. However, this is the information that we have before us, so it is up to you to determine if you feel comfortable approving it or denying it now, or if we need to hold it over to maybe give them time to design that so that you have that additional information.
Okay, any further comments? Questions of the board? I have one question. So I can't remember which group stated that we have had others that this board has approved variances or special exceptions for. This is fairly new for us to have special exceptions.
This is the first drive-through that has come through for any kind of approvals from the board or the planning commission since the adoption of the downtown development district. So there has been no planning approval or special exception granted for drive-throughs at this point.
I think he was referring to that mixed-use development, a block or two to one block.
Yeah, I remember
over
that.
to the west. I think that's what he was referencing, those variances.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? I think that'll conclude once again our public hearing on this application. We've had several community members speak in support and opposition. And with this being a special exception, the board should consider all those findings of fact as they make their motion.
Yeah.
Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate y'all's position. I've worked downtown my entire adult life, and I live in the historic district. And I appreciate the veracity, and I believe that everything that was said, y'all believe is true. I don't necessarily agree with that. I am a real estate professional, so I don't come from it just with no knowledge. There couldn't be a lower impact development of this property that I can see. They got 10 spaces. I go to drive-ups downtown. I go to the Bank Trust, which is a huge bank in the old First National Bank building. It's named after them. Drive-up is in the garage. I go in there on occasion. I think one time I've seen another vehicle in there. Service First has one that's in a garage. Never seen anyone back up there. I certainly have seen the Chick-fil-A back up, which is a real pain in the butt because I'm right around the corner from it. I can't stand it. That's not because of the bank. Regions, used to be AmSouth, has a freestanding multi-lane drive up on Water Street. Rarely do I see cars there. I think it is a minimal part of the business these days. I'm not a banker, but I truly believe it probably is more so for the benefit of some customers. And I agree with the gentleman that spoke in favor of it, that there could be many other type of businesses that would have a greater impact. I cannot figure out any way how having that drive up changes anything from any other business with respect to walkability. How many cars come in and out of Greer's? Okay, lots. That's how they run their business. That's how they make their living. Just like the mixed-use developments. You got residential up top. You got commercial down below. You can have cars coming and going. St. Louis is a main thoroughfare downtown. It's one of the reasons why it's so successful, because it's wide. So with all that being said, again, I don't want to be the bad guy. I have friends sitting out there, and I don't want any death threats or Facebook comments. But anyway, I'm going to move for approval on it with some caveats. One is it would be limited to one up against the building, and two, that no drive-up activities could happen on that site with respect to this approval, meaning as it runs with the land, that drive-up or any drive-up cannot be utilized or used after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So what that would mean if somebody bought a 2-story bank building and decided they wanted it to be a Chick-fil-A, they can only have one, and they can't use it after 5. And I hope that will maybe not satisfy, but alleviate some of your concerns. With that being said, I move for approval. Findings of fact, and also in the standards of review for a special exception are different than a variance. You have to look at it and read. It asks questions, and I've read them, and I can't see anything, from my opinion, that is contrary to what the answers to these questions. So again, with that being said, I move for approval subject to those two things: limit to one and after 5 o'clock.
Okay, I have a motion with conditions. Do I have a second?
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
Lewis referenced that this is site plan specific, and I'm sitting here looking at a site with no measurements on the curb cuts, and no details, no drawing of the canopy or anything of that nature. How do we approve something site plan specific without the details necessary from like a real civil drawing?
Well, some minor things can be addressed administratively. So the width of the curb cut, as long as it's compliant with the DDD, can be approved administratively. The elevation of the structure is not necessarily dependent upon, or is not needed to have for the special exception and before you today. But the applicant is aware that they will need to come back for potential variances.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think that they could shrink the building some, but they couldn't enlarge it over this site plan without coming back.
Okay, it's just I'm trying to get my head around it. So we could potentially approve a drive-through for a building that is not allowed to have a curb cut unless they achieve a variance. So it would be subject to a variance request, correct? And then if they didn't get the variance, obviously they wouldn't build the drive-through and then it would eventually expire.
Well, that leads me to a question that I had for Mr. Metcalf on your motion that you made. Is that the two conditions that you suggested, are those in addition to the three conditions that staff suggested? Which one of them is either redesign the site so that it complies with the DDD regulations or obtain necessary variance approvals?
Yes.
Okay. So then that would address that. They would either need to redesign the site to comply, so that would involve potentially losing that second curb cut.
Okay.
But also, they'd have to get ARB approval, correct? For design standards.
They need to have
ARB.
approval from the Consolidated Review Committee. I'm not sure that it's in a historic district, though. Is it?
So
It
it'd
is,
be CRC?
it is not in a historic district, but it does need CRC approval.
So there are rules in place or steps to go through to make sure that it is compliant with these considerations.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Did we answer your question, Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any other comments, questions? We have a motion with conditions. Chair's still looking for the second. Well, I'll concur with Mr. Metcalf that the use is probably the least intense that you probably could have. We've had others in here looking for bars and nightclubs and dance halls and entertainment venues and everything else, some of which is in this area, which parking is always an issue. And part of the reason I asked the question about parking originally is currently it's a paid parking lot, right? And now it's going to turn into a free parking lot without the enforcement aspect of it. So that may be an actual benefit to the neighborhood, I would think, but or to the area. So with that, I'll second the motion that Mr. Metcalf's proposed. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion fails. The application for the exception fails. So you have 6 months. All right. All right, we'll give you folks a chance to depart. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
No death threat, please.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, application 6655, 5604 regarding 429 Lincoln Boulevard.
Hello.
And your name and
follow
address?
that,
No drive-throughs. Zeke Hudson, 3502 Laughlin Drive. I'm with Rowe Engineering, representing the client. If we take a look at this, so this was originally 5 lots. The entire subdivision was originally platted as 25-foot lots in width. Obviously, you can't do a whole lot with that, so we're trying to cut this down to a 3-lot subdivision. But right now, we've been requested to give a 25-foot setback along 12th Street and along Lincoln. We would like to reduce that to 10. If you take a look at the drawing that you have in front of you now, the lots are only 37.5 feet. If we give up 25 feet, obviously there's no buildable space. So we'd like to reduce that setback along the side setback, which is 12th, and along the front setback, which is Lincoln Boulevard.
Okay, I have a question for staff. The apartments that are across from Lincoln appear to be fairly close to 12th Street. Do we know what setback is on that?
I can partially answer that. If
Feel free.
I don't have it.
Well, the original subdivision had no setbacks. It's that old. There were no setbacks, and you are correct. There's a lot of streets along 12th Street that are very close to the curb.
Okay. Yeah, Lincoln looks like I mean, it's fairly vacant, so, but that apartment complex looks like it's fairly close on both corners,
Correct.
or both streets. Okay. I'm sorry, I may have interfered with your statement. Anything else we should consider?
I'm assuming that since these were platted lots, the minimum square footage for us to build on these lots would be?
I don't see a request for anything to do with site coverage. Do we have anything?
This has been before the planning commission, hasn't it?
Yes.
And the planning commission has the ability to waive the minimum lot size.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So our request is to reduce the front and side setback.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant?
What's the specific request on the setback distance?
I think we could live with 10.
But on lot C, that existing dwelling would be far back from the new construction?
That is correct. But if you look up and down 12th Street, you will see that a lot of those houses are extremely close to the edge of pavement.
Okay, so you're looking for 10 on Lincoln and 10 on 12.
That is correct.
Thank you.
What is the setback on that existing currently?
There is no current setback, but by...
How far is that currently from the street? Or from the property line, I should say.
It's 25.
25?
Well, that would be the requirement would be 25.
He's talking about the
What
existing.
when we actually
Okay.
located the center line of the street.
The only reason I asked is that I wonder why you wouldn't want them in kind of same alignment, or however you want.
Well, that's an existing, I'm not sure why they wanted to cut those down to 3 lots, but they did. We're actually enlarging the lots.
Do you think that structure will remain or
I
eventually
do
be
believe that
replaced?
structure will remain. That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Reviewing the applicant's submittal, they specifically state that they only wanted to get a setback along 12th Street reduced from 25 feet to 10 feet on the north property line. And as the description is written in your agenda, it only talks about a side street, side yard setback reduction of, so it would not apply to Lincoln Boulevard. It would only apply to 12th Street
12th Street.
as advertised for this meeting today.
Okay.
My apologies, 12th Street.
Okay, well, that answers my question about the alignment of the other structures. All right, any other questions of the board?
Real
Yes.
quick, so if the Lincoln wasn't advertised, we can only vote on 12th at this time, and then the applicant would have to come back to ask for an additional re-advertise for Lincoln if that made the deal work.
You could either do that, or we could hold this one over so that they could amend their application so that we could re-advertise it and it could all be heard together at the next meeting.
I would imagine the applicant would prefer that, correct?
I think we can live with the 25
Okay.
along Lincoln, but we obviously want the reduced setback along 12th Street.
All right, so we're going to proceed with the application for, which is 12th Street.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do we have any public comments on this application?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. And are you in favor or supporting the back? You're on a different application, so, all right, we have none for the record. All right, once again, any questions of the board? All right, thank you. That'll conclude our public hearing regarding the application, which is a 25-foot setback variance from the, currently for 12th Street to 10 is what the applicant's requesting. All right, conclude our public hearing. Chair entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Have a motion to approve, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're on application 5, 6657, 6457, 6125 regarding 2100 Airport Boulevard. Good afternoon. Name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Cummings, Cummings Architecture, 1 Houston Street. I am the architect for the applicant, Cooper Restaurants. The application is for a reduced setback variance and a site coverage variance for a proposed front addition to an existing building. The proposed addition is about 8.5 feet by a little bit more than 20 feet. And the addition is to be a front foyer and airlock for an existing restaurant. And the variances are just for the need for this addition. So the existing setbacks for this property, there's a 5-foot side yard setback on the west property line. It's the side that faces Gulf City Cleaners. And because this is an existing building, a building that was built many years ago, the existing building already encroaches about 6 inches into that 5-foot side yard setback. And then there is a 10-foot building setback on Glenwood Street. And again, because this is an existing building, the building already encroaches about 8.5 feet into the that setback. And then the Airport Boulevard setback is 10 feet, and there is currently no encroachment into the 10-foot setback. We are asking to reduce the setback on Airport Boulevard from 10 feet to 7 feet, and the setback on Glenwood from 10 feet to 9 feet. And we would not propose a change to the side yard setback. The site coverage is also part of our variance application. The current ordinance says that the maximum site coverage is 50%, but because this is an existing building, the existing site coverage is already about 72%, and with this small little addition, it would have a modest increase to almost 76%, a little less than 76%. So again, I just want to state that the current conditions we already exceed the maximum site coverage, and we already encroach into the setbacks. So a little bit of the history. This building has been there for many years. I believe it was constructed prior to the adoption of the original zoning ordinance. And so when it was constructed, constructed prior to the zoning ordinance setbacks and site coverage. This building is not dissimilar to many of the other structures in the area. This is the historic Midtown Loop area. There are many other buildings in that area that exceed the maximum site coverage and also already encroach into the current building setback standards. For example, oh Lord.
Go ahead. Keep going. There's nobody else here, Ben. Go ahead.
I really worked on this. But I guess I didn't look at my time. Are you here to speak on this project? Okay, I'm going to speak for the other people that would come up and speak for them.
20 minutes.
Okay. All right, so 2151 Airport Boulevard, the Randalls, they are about 5 feet from Mohawk Street. 2037 Airport Boulevard, that bike shop, Adventure Earth, they're about 5 feet from Airport Boulevard and about 1 feet from Little Flower Avenue. And 2033 Airport Boulevard, the Smoothie King is about 5 feet from Airport Boulevard. So I'm going to keep talking.
How far is the cleaners from
next door?
So the cleaners is about in line with the with this building, and so this building is. Can you go to the site plan? Yeah, it's about in line with the existing building. The cleaners is the one that it's immediately to the left of that building, and it's the same color as the parking lots. Yeah, so it's kind of sort of in line.
Ben, does this have on-street parking up front?
So there is an old curb cut on Airport Boulevard. We have simultaneously, at the same time we submitted the application to the Board of Adjustments, we also submitted plans to the Building Department and the Engineering Department, gone through all the plan review process and comments. And one of the engineering comments was to remove the curb cut and put a traditional, curb and gutter on Airport Boulevard. This site previously received a parking variance, a shared parking variance with, I think, 3 other properties on Glenwood. So parking is provided through variance from other properties. So this lot, the building, takes up most of the property, and there is no on-site parking for this building.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So are you going to close that curb cut up front?
Yes, the engineering department in their plan review comments is requested that we close it, and we will close it.
Good. And then how about the sidewalk?
There is currently a sidewalk already there that will remain.
Okay, so you won't be encroaching on the sidewalk?
We will not be encroaching on the sidewalk.
Okay, so you're going to eliminate the curb cut, eliminate anybody backing out, and still have a sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
The walkability will be preserved.
That's my question.
Okay. This is a currently occupied building?
Yes, it is a currently occupied restaurant.
Okay. And they just, your plan is to move that hostess waiting area out to the front?
Yeah, right now, those doors into the restaurant, when you open the door, you are immediately into the dining area. So this foyer airlock, will be a visual buffer from airport, a sound buffer from airport, and will be an environmental or buffer. It'll be an airlock.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of the board? We've got all these people in the audience. I think we're waiting to speak.
We've already spoken for everybody.
All right.
Actually, I have a whole page that I'd like to.
Unless you want us to take a recess and come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
Don't press your luck, Ben.
All right. Any other questions of the board? All right. And once again, we have no one in the audience in support or opposition, no public comments. We've addressed all the walkability and parking issues, so I think we're good. All right. With that, thank you. That'll conclude our public hearing on the application. Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Ben, I do want to say, I know you're not doing it, but for the Coopers to spend some money in the Loop has been suffering for many, many years, and it's nice to see some investment in it. And with that, I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's with findings of fact and
all those things.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, before you all run, we've got minutes to approve, and I'm just going to go through January 10th of 2022. Some of you wasn't around then. February 7th, 2022. March 7th, 2022, and December of 2022. And I'm going to ask that April 4th, 2022 be approved with page 2, case or application 3 that we changed. It says a motion to approve and a motion to deny was made by William and second by Adam. And then it says motion's passed unanimously. I'm kind of confused on that one. So we may have to correct it. It looks like there's 2 different motions and then they're both unanimously approved. Yeah. Well, there's other stuff, but very little. No, doesn't say that. Anyway, it's the only one we got to change. So I'd suggest we approve all of these applications with corrections to page 2 as mentioned. And with that, Chair, entertain a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair, subject to your suggestions on the April
4th, 2022. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any other business today? Think we're good? Okay. We don't have any new ones, is what I'm, not yet, as,
Yeah. No, I think they're going to be fine.
all right.
Supreme power. It's
All
like
right.
governor.
With that, motion to adjourn. Thank you all. Have a good day.